thanks very much to Graham and John for helping on the technical front as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about professional development opportunities for those working in life science services. I will pick up on some of the themes that were tackled very, very nicely by the previous speaker, and tell you about a couple of initiatives that we have set up here in Europe to address this huge need for career development in those who are not doing the classical pre-doc, post-doc, PI route, but are providing services for the research community. And these have become an absolutely vital element of how we do research nowadays. And it will be impossible to do the kinds of research we do without large-scale scientific services, and you are all a part of that ecosystem. But before I launch into that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of context. So I am currently sitting at the EBI, which is just south of Cambridge. We're Europe's home for biological data services, research and training. And training is the part of that that's dearest to my heart. The EBI is a trusted data provider for the life sciences worldwide, and is part of the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, which, as many of you know, is an intergovernmental research organisation. We're highly international here. We have around 700 members of staff now from around 60 different nations. And we're also home to the hub of one of these large major research infrastructures in Europe, the Elixir research infrastructure, which focuses on biological data and is kind of a sister research infrastructure to Global BioImaging, which again many of you will be familiar with. Our training mission here at the EBI is to enable EMBL to deliver world-leading training in bioinformatics, but also in scientific service provision. And it's the scientific service provision part of this that I'm going to be talking about this afternoon. And when I say to the research community, I mean that in the broadest possible sense. Scientific professionals of all flavours, actually. And the goal of this is to empower scientists at all career stages to make the most of biological data and to strengthen bioinformatics capacity across the globe. But in this scientific service training mode, we have touched on many, many areas beyond bioinformatics. We work with social scientists, environmental scientists, physical scientists, you name it. So our audience has actually become rather broader than we ever anticipated. And I'm just going to say a couple of words about the EBI training program. We work in 5 different delivery modes, basically. There are the courses that we run at the EBI, and anybody who's been on an EMBO course or a Cold Spring Harbor course or any of these immersive learning opportunities where you and your trainers spend a week or more immersed together in a topic, will be familiar with the kind of model that we use here. We also travel around the world delivering training off-site. We provide opportunities for visits and secondments. We have a freely available online training program. And then in order to increase our scalability further, we also have a very active trainer-trainer program, and much of that we've organised in collaboration with Elixir as part of the Elixir network of bioinformatics trainers. So there's kind of a broad spectrum here of different training modalities, and many of them now feed into strategic partnerships with higher education institutes to deliver professional qualifications. And there is one professional qualification that I would like to talk about in a little bit more detail. This is an Executive Masters in Research Infrastructure Management, which we have put together as a partner on a project called RI Train, which was funded by the European Commission through its Horizon 2020 programme. And we are just one partner in this project, although my team did have a very, very heavy hand in shaping this in the first instance. But really the major deliverer of this now is the University of Milano Bicocca in Italy, and a consortium of partners, all of whom are involved in research infrastructures in Europe. So this is an executive master's program, essentially, that is aimed at improving and professionalizing the training of managerial and leadership staff in research infrastructures. It's framed around an 18-month part-time executive master's, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. But there are many opportunities to chunk that up into smaller pieces. We offer knowledge exchanges, staff exchanges. There's a freely available webinar series. All of this is available through the RI Train website. And the target audience for this program is primarily the middle management to senior management of research infrastructures. And we've particularly targeted those distributed research infrastructures where you're offering something on an international basis, and you might have a network of scientific services working across a large geographical area. And this was essentially focused on the European research infrastructure community, but is open internationally. And as time's gone on, we've actually done more and more to try and make this as relevant as possible to those working in individual core facilities as well. And so we have a number of core facility managers engaged in the program now. The Masters itself is essentially an MBA style course. So it's a part-time master's level course that is designed to give those in leadership of scientific services, or those aspiring to be in leadership of scientific services, the skills and the knowledge that they need to take on greater and greater managerial responsibilities. So as part of EMRI, you become part of a global network of research infrastructure colleagues who are in similar positions, and you can learn a lot from them and your shared experiences. We have an international faculty of dedicated professors and acclaimed experts from research infrastructures. And so many Elixir, Global BioImaging and EMBL senior staff have been involved in delivering training to date. The program will give you a better understanding of how research infrastructure and how scientific service in general in different countries operates and how it responds to common challenges. Greater awareness of your own leadership strengths and weaknesses, and of course that enables you to play to your strengths and address your weaknesses. And the program also provides innovative ways to help your organisation become more effective as a whole. We're about to launch into the third iteration of this master's program now. And the duration is 18 months. There are around 30-35 places available. The entire course is taught in English, and we have a call open at the moment. The deadline for application for EoE IV is fast approaching. It's September the 30th, and the program itself will start at the beginning of March 2020. If you want to learn more about EoE IV, then I would strongly encourage you to click on the EMRI website. There's a lot of information about what participating in the Masters would involve. So far I've talked primarily about the full Masters course, but there are a number of different enrolment options. So an individual with the right prerequisites is welcome and encouraged to take part in the full master. It is designed to fit around a busy production schedule. So your contact time is chunked up in manageable modules that primarily take place in Milan, although there are a number of online modules now, especially on the finance side. You can also split your participation. So if there is a team of scientific service managers working together, you can essentially play to each other's strengths and join as a team. So, for example, if you operating a core facility are working together with, let's say, a finance manager or a grants manager, and perhaps someone who's more involved in recruitment and HR, then the three of you could each choose the modules that were most appropriate to your own specialty, and between you do a qualification that essentially becomes a qualification for your organisation. You're awarded a Certificate of Excellence in Research Infrastructure Leadership, and then the individual module that each of you have taken would count as prior learning if you then decided at a later date to complete the full EMRI yourself. Taking that one step further, there's an open program. All of the individual modules can be taken as standalone short courses. I've shown the structure of that here. And then also, you don't have to pay the tuition fees twice. So if, for example, over a period of a year or two, you've taken 2 or 3 of these modules, and you then decide, well, actually, I would like to do the full masters, that will be taken in account when your fees for the full masters are calculated. And in terms of the structure of the program, there's a set of 11 core modules and then an additional optional module. And because this was designed for research infrastructures, and many of the research infrastructures that we were targeting were going through the phase of setting up as part of the ESFRI process here in Europe, the optional module is based on the stage that you're at. So planning to create a research infrastructure, setting it up, and then once you're operational, then leading an operational research infrastructure. In addition to these modules, you also do a field project, and those doing the field projects are essentially doing something that they have to do as an integral part of their day-to-day work, and then that counts as a chunk towards their master's qualification. All of this is based around a competency model. So the way we designed the entire curriculum was to think about what competencies a leader of a research infrastructure requires. And we divided this into a set of 3 different areas. There's a set of competencies around leading the organisation. There's a set of competencies based around engagement, both within your organisation and particularly where you're working in a distributed research infrastructure, but also beyond your organisation. What do you need to do in terms of outreach, engagement, working with stakeholders to build and maintain what you're operating? And then there's a series of competencies around professional conduct, and all of this is set in the context of starting from scratch and building up to operational maturity. What we mean by competency is an observable ability of any professional, and it integrates multiple components. It integrates your knowledge base, it integrates your technical skill set, and it integrates values and attitudes. And every single competency statement that we have incorporated into our framework has a set of knowledge, skills, and attitudes associated with it. You can download the entire framework from the RI Train website, and I've given you the URL here. Even if you're not considering doing the Masters or any part of the Masters, as scientific service providers, I would encourage you to download this and take a look at it, because just as a planning tool for thinking about where your individual competencies lie and where you could develop your competency further, it's quite a useful personal development tool, and it's out there, it's freely available. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. It might help you to think about your own professional development and the professional development of those you're working with. And then finally, in addition to the components of the master's course, there are a number of shorter standalone opportunities. We've recorded a series of webinars. All of these are delivered by experts in scientific service management and leadership. They're all openly available, and again, I would encourage you to take a look at those. And we have also delivered a series of knowledge exchanges and staff exchanges where small numbers of staff from research infrastructures have gone together to visit a research infrastructure that excels in a particular area, and they've had a really unique contact with the leadership of that research infrastructure. They've been able to spend quality time with them, discussing their own challenges, thinking about how solutions have been found in the host research infrastructure, and how those solutions might apply in the context of the research infrastructure in question. We're getting towards the end of the RI Train project now, and we don't actually have any further staff exchanges planned in the immediate future, but we are looking for funds to continue these activities. So keep an eye out, and keep pestering your EoE collaborators, because I suspect that something else will be coming up in the future that will enable us to deliver more of these kinds of activities. I certainly hope so. It was very enjoyable participating in them as a host, I must say. Enlightening for us as well. I wanted to mention a sister project. When we started RI Train, there was another, actually much larger project that wasn't focused completely on training, but instead was focused on creating a platform for harmonized user access to biological and medical technologies across Europe. And we were participating in the training activities of this project as well. It's a project called Corbel. Again, there are several people in the audience who are actively involved in other parts of this project. Through the training work package of Corbel, we've offered a number of additional professional development opportunities. These have been aimed more at the operational staff rather than the leadership staff in scientific services. Again, we've had some staff exchanges and knowledge exchange workshops. There have been opportunities for individuals to do staff visits to research infrastructures participating in the Corbel Consortium. We've had a fellowship program that has enabled Corbel partners to attend courses that were relevant to their work but that were not offered by us. We've got an ongoing webinar series, and again, all of those webinars are recorded and they're made available through the Corbel website. So there is a resource for you to make use of. If you have any questions about Corbel, then the contact person for Corbel is Vera Matza, and I've given her email address here. Perhaps through Graham or John, I could make these slides available to you later on, so you can grab any of these URLs or email addresses, and you don't have to frantically scribble everything down as I'm flying through my talk. The very, very final thing that I wanted to mention, just in case some of you in the audience are more data-oriented than imaging-oriented, at the EBI we also run a course which is a 3-day course on managing a bioinformatics core facility. The focus of this course is not so much on the bioinformatics, actually. It's on developing and running a service, developing your business models, and often these are mixed business models with some internal funding, some external funding, some internal clients, some external clients, and every possible combination of those things. We have sessions on data management, we have sessions on training your users, which again the previous speaker touched on beautifully. I mean, the need to work with your users to empower them is huge in scientific services of all flavours, and that's something that you know, on the occasions when we've de-emphasised it in this course, we've had people clamouring for more information on how to train their users. And so we do this once a year, typically in June. And for those of you who may be interested, there's a tiny URL to register your interest there, and then we'll be opening full registration in about 2 or 3 months' time. Finally, I'm afraid I've got 2 acknowledgement slides because there are so many people to say thank you to in terms of the effort that has gone into these programs. So I'd like to thank all of my partners on the RI Train project. There are many different research infrastructures, both the kind of traditional ones that have been around for many years, such as EMBL, and these newer ESFI research infrastructures. And also, of course, all of our partners on the Corbell project. There's a lot of overlap, as you'll see, in the partners on these 2 projects. Of course, I'd like to say a big thank you to our funder for both of these projects. They've both been funded under the EU's Horizon 2020 programme. And I'd also like to thank my team, and primarily in the context of these 2 projects, Claire Johnson, who has done the bulk of the work on RI Train, and Vera Matza, who does the bulk of the work on Corbell. If you're interested in EBI's broader offering, then there is a whole slew of ways of keeping in touch with us through the website, through the EMBL course and conference newsletter, because of course a lot of the training that we offer is offered through the EMBL course and conference programme. And then we have numerous social media channels. As is the case in many service scenarios, we have a very mixed funding model with funding from a lot of sources, and it's my opportunity to say thank you to all of them. And lastly, thank you for your attention and for bearing with me as I've delivered this remotely. And if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to take them if time allows.
Thank you very much, Cath. It was very informative, very useful. I'm sure you'll have some new registrants for your courses as well. I think we're going to skip questions, perhaps because of technical demand as well as our time constraints. So, thanks, and I'll ask the audience to thank you again.